Chop it down. Chop it down. Chop it down. You gon' chop it down. Chop it down. You gon' chop it down.
I just appreciate everybody
Damn,
watching.
watch him throw the ball. We gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through fourth and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders, heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trap or Dive.
Any means, right? Yes, sir. Good morning, man. What's going on with y'all? Welcome back to the Trap or Dive channel, Washington Commanders morning show. It's been a little minute. Let me get my music going right quick. So context too, right? Well, actually, let me get the administrative item out of the way. So look, I don't know. I kind of forgot given that it's definitely not going to be 3 days a week anymore, because it's not that much news to talk about. At least on my side, I ain't a radio guy. I'm podcast and YouTube, so I don't need to act like no radio dude and do an everyday thing. Point being, let's get back to my point. I don't know, like maybe Friday, given that we have a Trap or Dive, we have the podcast on Tuesday still. So I may still just lean that route, do a show every Friday morning, and catch up on the news from the week as we go into the weekend. That'll probably be the best method. Have a Tuesday Commanders thing and then a Friday Commanders thing. And then also film breakdowns. So I contemplated doing a film breakdown this morning. Hold on 1 second. Get that thing going. I don't need that. What's going on, Rich? So we're gonna talk about Byron Leftwich in a second. But yeah, where are that? Oh, film breakdowns. Yeah, I was contemplating doing one this morning. Chris Paul, Sam Howell for the YouTube. One of them, right? And I'm gonna do the film breakdown, but it may not be live. This one may be where I kind of have more of a structure with some edits and something like that, make it a little bit more concise, and go that route. But we will definitely have film breakdowns for some of the younger guys. Jahan, a new one is coming up. Obviously, if you all saw the all-season one after they drafted him, that's still on the YouTube channel. You can check that out if you want to. Like, the season's over, so it's kind of outdated, but it still stands in terms of his production. But we're gonna have one for the season, his season performance, his pros, cons, things that he does well, some things he has to work on. Chris Paul, like I mentioned, we're gonna do a Sam Howell one. Sam Howell may be the quickest one to do, because he had one game, and I don't want to draw conclusions off of one game. What's going on, 757? Good morning, big dog. Good morning to all the morning trappers just checking in. Everybody who is just checking in, make sure you hit that like button, make sure you hit the subscribe button. It's definitely appreciated. So yeah, Sam Howell, Jahan Dotson. I hate the fact that Cole Turner really didn't get that many looks in terms of targets sent his way in the past game. That's frustrating. So I don't know how much I'll be able to look into him from a pass game standpoint, but there's always tape on players. Like, run blocking was one of his main weaknesses coming out. But I think he actually did good in the games that I just saw him in. So we'll tap into Turner, Cole Turner. I don't know if I say Scott. And then we got some other players too on the defense side of football that we'll tap into, especially like John Ridgeway, who I thought had a good season, but I also noticed some times where he had some issues identifying blocks, and learning how to play the block. So it's some things there that he has to work on as well. So all together, we got film coming up. I think I'm missing one more administrative item, but if it comes to me, I will bring it back up. Anyway, business time. Y'all know why we're here. Offensive coordinator search updates. That's all this morning. I hope you like the title. Rich said, Rich mentioned Leftwich coming to DC. I do remember that. Here's my thing, and I did do. Hold on. Okay. All right, give me 2 seconds. Oh, no, I'm good. I'm good now. Just catching up on work messages. All right. All right, here we go. So, Byron Leftwich, let's start that one out the top because I don't want to, it was a low-key, a little bit of a clickbait, but it is an interesting conversation and an honest conversation, genuine one. Because if you all heard JP Finley on our podcast last week, right? You can still catch that entire conversation if you want to. But if you heard him, one of his long shots, not that he said it will happen, but one of his long shots was the fact that Byron Leftwich could come back to DC and come back home essentially to DC. And that was one of his things where it's like, if you want to shoot for the stars, that's the guy to shoot for. Nobody had an idea that, per reports, they may be firing him. I don't again, it's one report. It hasn't really been substantiated across the Buccaneer beat reporters and insiders. It hasn't really been established. But the initial news made some traction yesterday. My main thing with Byron Leftwich, and I won't even waste anybody's time with what I think about him coming to DC. I don't know too much about his scheme, right? I don't know too much about what he wants to get accomplished on a day-to-day, on a game-by-game basis. I don't know what his philosophy is. I do know that they pass a lot, but there are factors that you have to take into consideration when you look at the Buccaneers, right? And all of it makes sense. Like, if you think about the main criticisms, let me see if I can even pull up. I had a tweet, so I want to, there were some comments under that tweet that should be easy to read. Let me take a look and see if I can find it. Give me 2 seconds. All right, here we go. Here we go. So some people said, I don't know why folks were so high on him to begin with. I'm rooting for him, but I need to see how he does without Brady. Sean mentioned Orlovsky was killing Leftwich's play calling. Somebody else said dude is overrated. He may be all right, but he damn sure ain't the savior we are looking for over here. Let's see, where else did I come across some conversations? That may have been the main. I saw some comments and probably in other people's tweets. But here's my thing. Let's go ahead and get back to Leftwich for a second, and why I believe that at the very least some of the thoughts are kind of misguided. If the main concern is the fact that, matter of fact, let me just go ahead and finish. If the main concern is thoughts that, they passed the ball a lot, they didn't really run the ball, and they didn't have a ground game. Understand that when you have Tom Brady at quarterback and you have Julio Jones, right? Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, both of Evans and Godwin went for 1,000 yards this year, right? Both Evans and Godwin accounted for over 260 targets and 181 receptions. When you have Russell Gage on your roster, Scotty Miller was around, but he took a backseat to these guys because of the fact that Russell Gage was still around. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, right? Those guys are here. So, they're going to take a back. Scotty Miller, who's a solid slot receiver, is going to take a backseat to these guys. But Scotty Miller's on your team. Cameron Brady's on your team. Right? You have all these players on your roster that encompasses what a passing offense looks like. And then you have an offensive line that is good in pass protection. They help keep Brady clean for most of the time. You're going to be a pass-first offense. You're always going to be a pass-first offense. You have Brady on your roster. He leads you down the field. So you're going to look at Tom Brady and you're going to look at that Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense and say, he passes the ball too much. It's okay. That is what happens when you have that type of offense, you have that type of offensive line, and you have that type of quarterback with those weapons surrounding him. You're going to have a top 5 passing offense. You're going to have a top 5 in attempts. You're going to have a top 5 in passing yards. Last year, the number 2 overall offense, number 1 pass offense in attempts, number 1 pass offense in terms of yards. That was the second year under Brady. The first year under Brady, again, top 6 in attempts, number 2 in terms of yards. That happens. That's just the facts of the matter. You're always going to have a pass-heavy offense when you have Tom Brady and when you have those weapons around him. And I think that's when people fail to take into account the fact that when you look at Brian Leftwich and you try to criticize him for the fact that he is pass-heavy, he is playing the cards that he is dealt or that he was dealt. And that's not a negative. That's more so understanding who your offense is and understanding who your players are. So again, when you ask me, like, or when I talk about the idea of Byron Leftwich, I want people to understand that it's not even about scheme. I haven't even dove into that yet. You haven't even dove about what they do best and what he does best. It's not about that. But he don't have the horses to average 150 yards a game on the ground. He has the horses to average 250 yards through the air. That is what's important. And I think people are missing that context when it comes to Byron Leftwich. It's not about like looking at every single thing. Like, matter of fact, even look at the Dallas game, man. The biggest thing from this season when it comes to that Buccaneers offense is understanding what happened, trying to figure out what happened to Brady and what happened to that offensive line. Brady regressed. And why was nobody paying attention to that? When people look at the fact that they were 25th in points this year, and you point to the coordinator, that is one very valid aspect, right? But if you sit here and think that like you can automatically take blame away from the fact that the quarterback had clearly regressed. I hate how I said that. Regressed. Then that needs to be, you need to factor that in. You need to factor in why the offensive line wasn't as good as it was in years past. To what degree, we don't know. But you need to figure that out too. To sit here and think that Byron Leftwich don't run the football, that is fool's gold. You think that he's gonna go somewhere where they're run focused or run oriented, right? Or have the tools to run the football, and then he's just gonna sit here and drop back pass to the extent of when they're first in attempts per game? No. So all I'm saying is, as I continue this conversation about Byron Leftwich, one, I'm not saying that Byron Leftwich or that I believe that Byron Leftwich should come to DC. I want to make that clear. I don't believe that Byron Leftwich will. I don't even know if he's going to get fired. Like, that's just one report, right? I also don't know if he's going to come to DC, but I do believe he deserves a second opportunity as an offensive coordinator elsewhere. He's earned that in his 4 years as an offensive coordinator. Like, if he gets fired, like, think about Pat Shurmur, because he's going to be part of the conversation when it comes. Hold on one second. Is this it? All right. He's going to be part of the conversation when we talk about some offensive coordinators today. Pat Shurmur, where is his stats? I had it up. A 2-time head coach, a 4-time offensive coordinator, right? 2-time head coach, 4-time offensive coordinator, bro. And look at his numbers when he was Denver. That was his last stop, I think, as OC. In 2020 and 2021, 25th and 19th overall. In rushing, they were 15th and 10th under him. Again, this is 2 years. 24th and 15th in passing. And then bottom third in the NFL in both seasons on third down, red zone scoring. Again, Pat Shurmur is a guy who's had 4 opportunities as an offensive coordinator. And he was a head coach 2 times. I don't know if Byron Leftwich gets fired in Tampa Bay. I will be intrigued by the idea of hiring Byron Leftwich. And you shouldn't hold the fact that his numbers from a run pass ratio standpoint doesn't align with what Ron does. I think Byron Leftwich was fully aware of what his situation was in Tampa Bay with Tom Brady and the fact that they can move the ball just as good on offense if they pass it 55-60% of the time. That's just how things work sometimes, man. And if he had a run-based offense, I'm sure he would run the football a little bit more. It's really that simple to me. Matter of fact, let me see what things look. That's not even fair. I ain't gonna do that. I ain't gonna do that. Ridgeway was a Cowboys practice squad player. Yes, he was. How much of a coordinator can you be with Tom Brady as your QB? I mean, you could be. I mean, he was. I get your overall, like, I get the basis of your question. How much control does Brady have in game planning and changing plays and things like that? To be determined. But for people to sit, I just truly believe, you get it. I said it. I just truly believe, like, when he has autonomy, he's not going to be the person who says, I don't care how much good offensive linemen we have in the run game or running backs we have, we're going to throw it all the time. Like, I don't think he's that guy. I just think he's fully aware of who his quarterback and weapons was in Tampa Bay. What's going on with you, Hawk? Good morning, player. Good morning. How y'all feeling today? Tom's life off the field may have played a factor as well. That is true. It could have been, like, it was a tumultuous season for Tom, bro. Like, his wife damn near broke up with him. And I only say that because I found myself on Tom Brady's Instagram page one day and she was still commenting on every single thing that he posted. So I would imagine that they're still in a relationship to some degree. I don't know. This ain't TMZ or Entertainment Today, so I can't tell you, and I don't dive into that shit. But yeah, like that stuff that he was dealing with off the field is real, bro. He had to take a leave of absence in the middle of the season, like gone, kapoots, for like 2 or 3 days, and he didn't talk about it when he came back. Byron called plays to win the Super Bowl, bringing Byron and never look back, and then draft Caleb Williams. Oh, she did leave? Hey, well, look, you better than me, Hog. I don't know. I don't know, man. Okay, so that's all on Byron Leftwich, man. I entertain the idea, but I don't know, like, he hasn't even gotten fired. I don't know, like, the legitimacy of the rumor, or the quote unquote report. But that's the most important thing when it comes to him. Now we switching to, like, some actual known names for the Commanders offensive coordinator. Starting with Pat Shurmur, because we already touched on him a little bit. Truth of the matter is, there are a few people who I am not in favor of when it comes to offensive coordinator. There are a couple people, not necessarily a few. Words are important. And secondly, I am also not opposed to many offensive coordinator options. And the reason being is I am not one who is considering or looking at this upcoming season in 2023 and saying he can't miss at OC, right? Like he doesn't, like, I just don't see. It's hard for me to see long term with Ron Rivera. That is my problem. It's hard for me to see long term with Ron Rivera. So in the grand scheme of things, I think that Ron Rivera from a personal standpoint, it's going to be like, yo, I have to hit on this offensive coordinator. I need some help. But I don't know if Ron Rivera is going to be able to see things through in Washington altogether. And that's really the crux of my ordeal. When I think about offensive coordinator, there's a couple people that I don't like because I feel like it's going to be a miserable season. But then at the same time, I'm not opposed to a lot of people. One of those people that I'm opposed to is Pat Shurmur. But he has a history, and I think that's why he should be considered the favorite for Washington's job. So he has a lot of ties around Rivera, and Grant Paulson actually put the information out there and said that there were three things that's in particular ties Ron Rivera to Shurmur. One, they were together on the Philadelphia staff from 99 to 2001. It's first one. Two, head coach under Dave Gettleman, right? Gettleman is Ron Rivera's GM in Carolina, so he can get some more information from Gettleman on Shurmur if he wanted to, even though they know each other. Three, hired Mike Shula as OC in New York. Mike Shula was at one point was Ron Rivera's OC in Carolina, one of many OCs that Ron Rivera had in Carolina. So those are the three main points, right? That's one. Secondly is we know that Ron loves to stick with people who are close to him, who he has ties to. That's the main reason why I think that he is Ron's number one choice, and anybody else that they talk to after that has to wow Rivera in order for him to change his mind, in my opinion. I think it would take a long, I wouldn't say long shot, but I think it would take some type of convincing for Ron to think about a Darrell Bevell, I think Eric Studsville in Miami, and then Atlanta, Charles London, the quarterback coach. I think it'll take a lot. I know you remember Jason Garrett started off as OC, then roughed Wade Phillips for the head coaching job in Dallas. If I'm a candidate for this job, I'm using that motivation to come here. It's an idea, man, but they never switched owners. Now, the thing is, because Rich just asked, has there been any news on the team selling? I guess the long story short, that response, Rich, yes, there's news. The latest news is that a deal could be done soon. However, a deal meaning like around, it could be as close to as soon as Super Bowl or like shortly after Super Bowl. Or news in terms of like the selling, but like a full deal and transfer probably may not happen until after March or sometime in late March. There were a couple of names that were out there. Bezos has not formally submitted a bid, so as for now, he's not done. But there is, at least to say right now that he isn't in the running, but he's not necessarily done with the idea. Todd Bowler, I believe is his name. He's local from Bethesda, Maryland. He was a guy who was at one point a front runner. He's dropped out. So those are two names in particular that, you know, you pay attention to. They're not probably going to be in the picture with an asterisk on Bezos. So that's your update. And that was as recent as even yesterday, I believe. And then also another thing, Dan Snyder may not be selling all of his stakes. He may be selling the majority ownership. So somebody may be running the ship and he may be like the silent guy, like with 49%, if not less than 49%. But he's selling at least majority of the stakes or ownership. So that's your update, your quick update on this the ownership part. But Hawk, back to your point, right? That's solid, but they didn't go through anything Washington went through. And that's why it's so hard for me to really like seriously like entertain who my preferences are and who I would love as OC. One of the people that I had a conversation about this morning was Charles London. Charles London is the quarterback coach for Atlanta right now, right? And obviously, if you all know Atlanta, I can't deal with Dan being the owner of this team anymore. Hey, look, we all in the same boat, my brother. What's going on, Outlaw? Good morning. We all in the same boat. But I think a win. I think if he sells majority, which is what is reported that he's selling at least majority, I think that's still a win. You don't really have to hear from him. He's not running the ship anymore. He's in the background, albeit a stain, right? And I really don't want him around the team. I don't want his name mentioned with the team. Although, like, if you sell majority, like, your name is still gonna be around with the Commanders. I don't know if anybody's gonna really want to do business with you. I don't know. I may be wrong, but that's one thing. Anyway, yeah, I don't like. It's just not the same for me, and it's not the same situation for any OC in Washington. I think the only thing, again, if Ron Rivera hits on the offensive coordinator job, you may mess around and see him here for a full 2023 and beyond. But I think any semblance of a sub 500 season, which, I mean, if you follow the trend, Rivera's good for that. Then he may mess around and get fired. And what does that mean for any offensive coordinator coming in, right? I think ultimately that kind of can lower the pool. And when we had JP Finley on, right? Two things. Because if y'all didn't listen to the podcast yesterday with Linnell Willingham, y'all should take a look at that interview. But two things. It lessens the pool, even though you get to call plays. But, like, how much job security do they have to build their offense the way they need to? And also trust that the playbook that they're going to implement is going to have enough time to flourish and grow in Washington. That is a question mark. That's a legitimate question mark. So when you think about that, right, you got to think about, and then you got to think about the coordinators. The assistants. We don't, but I'm saying, like, from an offensive coordinator standpoint, like, how do you work out bringing in who you want versus keeping who's on the staff already? How does that work? Does Ron tell you got to work with the staff that's here? Does Ron tell you, hey, man, you can go ahead and get rid of whoever you want, replace whoever you want? Like, if I'm an OC, I'm bringing in people that I can trust, like, hold the fort down for a year. And that doesn't have to be a complete overhaul, but it can be like 2 or 3 people, and that may mess around and get a couple people that's good here fired. I don't know. So my point is, like, that's the first thing. Like, who can you convince that this is a good opportunity? I'm not saying that you can't convince anybody, but who is it and what quality is it? It's the first thing. Second thing is, Linnell mentioned on his show. That's on his show, on our podcast yesterday. What's going on with you, Marcus? Yes, sir. You was in there yesterday. Pep Hamilton is his first choice. What's going on, JB? Good morning, man. No risking, no biscuit. You know what? Hey, look, man. You know what time it is, player. But yesterday, Linnell said that Ken Zampese was a guy who really loved Sam Howell. And if you're embracing the idea of Sam Howell going into 2023 as QB1 or going into 2023 with a true quarterback competition with Jacoby Brissett, or who else is out there, that, or maybe even Taylor Heineke, or maybe even Marcus Mariota, in case if you do go with Atlanta quarterback coach or something like that. I don't know. Or if you go with Zampese, I don't know. Point being, if you go with the Zampese route, like, he is a guy who really likes and loves Sam Howell. And that's not saying Zampese wants to be an offensive coordinator, because who knows if he wants to be an offensive coordinator again. But at the very least, there are a couple people on this roster, on this staff, where Ron Rivera says, like, if the search ain't going the way I want to from an external standpoint, I'm going to go ahead and go from within, and I'm gonna look at first Zampese, and then I may look at a younger guy, Andrew Terrell. Now, another thing is, it's important to remember, one of the first reports that came out after Turner got fired was that Ron Rivera was going to go external with his hire. That was one of the first reports. So that's something to take into account. And that's when we go back from Pat Shurmur. Matter of fact, who is everybody's preference? Like, Marcus said Pep. Does anybody have a preference? BA is amazing. Are you talking about Bruce Arians? And if you are talking about Bruce Arians, who said it was rough to pick up? Oh, so who's everybody's preference? But secondly, as we go from Pat Shurmur, like, Charles London is a guy that I'm really intrigued with, right? And for a couple of reasons. I think that, one, the experience in Atlanta showed every offensive staff the importance to running the football and what it can look like, right? They didn't have the dynamic weapons. Let me be clear. They didn't have enough weapons outside of Cordarrelle Patterson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. Like, they had some solid receivers behind that, but they were like four string rotational type of receivers. But it shows you, like, what a commitment to the ground game can look like when you don't have the quarterback and full receiving stat score that you can really have to flourish on that side of the football, or that side of the offense, right? So Charles London is one person who has experience in understanding why is it important to run the football. He's also been in an offense where I believe he's had a lot of experience in the run game as, I think, a running backs coach before he went to quarterbacks coach. So he understands principles. He understands what's effective. He understands how to coach. And that is something from research you can understand quickly. Like, Charles London is a guy who's a really good coach. And I think he even started as like a quality control guy, and he didn't last long as a quality control guy. He quickly got a promotion. So he understands some things about the run game and understands how important it is. He also is a zone scheme guy. And if you look at the current structure of the offense from the offensive line standpoint, that's good for Charles Leno. That's good for Chris Paul. That's good for Sam Cosmi. It's also good for Wes Schweitzer. I had this conversation with Mark Bullock on Twitter earlier today, and I had just got done watching Chris Paul against Dallas. And in that game with Chris Paul against Dallas, Wes Schweitzer was center. And Wes Schweitzer was moving quick. He was playing physical, had really good quickness at the snap. He had some juice to him. And the relationship that Wes Schweitzer and Chris Paul had on their double teams, their combination blocks, right, leads me to believe if you can find your answer at right guard. And I'm not even saying that Chris Paul is the answer. There's still some things he has to work on, and that'll be in the film breakdown. But if you can find your answer in the interior, I think, and you can have Wes Schweitzer at center, then I think that's a good deal. I think putting Wes Schweitzer at center is a good deal for the idea of bringing in what's his name, Charles London. That's a really good deal. So think about how effective a zone run offense could look like in Washington with some of the athletes that they do have at the offensive line spot. That's something to consider. Pass game, you can't sit here and I can't tell you what Charles London pass game looked like. You can maybe dive into his philosophy based on his background, and that'll take some research, right? But time will tell in terms of what the pass game could look like. I don't want to draw conclusions in that regard.
Hey, run that shit up, Chase.
Hawk says he has 3 choices, but he prefers Byron Leftwich. His 3 is Byron, Pep, and Eric Bieniemy. Eric interviewed for a job recently. Let's see. Let me see. Eric Bieniemy job interview. Yeah, he just interviewed for a job. Titans. It was the Titans. Yeah. So he interviewed for them. He interviewed for the head coaching job for Indianapolis. Yeah. All right, so those are two deals. And I think the most important thing too, I think it was last week as well, Eric Bieniemy, JP Finley mentioned it. Eric Bieniemy doesn't really call plays in Kansas City. So an idea of bringing Bieniemy here isn't too bad, given he has an opportunity to run the offense the way he wants. But is he going to take a year of instability, or is he going to take he's going to take an opportunity with a coach who has stability in Vrabel? Or if he takes the head coaching job, he knows that he's going to have time to develop and build a team in the eyes like that he sees fit. Hey, Hawk, come on, player. Did he make Cardale Jones look good? Let me look at his coaching history, bro. Because I know what Cardale looked like in that playoff, the inaugural playoffs for Ohio State, right? Hold on, wait, what the hell? What is this? Oh yeah, the DC Defenders. I was like, where did Cardale come from? But yeah, Cardale played he played for the DC Defenders in the XFL. That was a couple games, man. And Cardale, I remember Cardale didn't really look too good after the first 2 games. They went 2-0, and then they just fell off a cliff. For however many more games that they played. Gotta take that one with a grain of salt. After the Chris Paul interview, and somebody in the comments said, D buddy. Oh yeah. Hey, if you play football, players, hey, do your thing, dog. Do your thing. Hey, that's funny as hell. That's funny as hell, bro. Pat Shermer, JB says. Okay. Again, like I said, there's only, and on top of that, to be honest with you, the ones that I'm opposed to, I wouldn't even make that a big deal. Like Pat Shermer is one guy I'm opposed to, but he doesn't even bother me. Like I am very indifferent from an overall standpoint of this offensive coordinator search, because it's like, what are we doing here? What's the plan? What's the short term? What's the long term? And obviously, this ownership thing just makes everything so cloudy for me. Like it's hard to get excited about an idea, but I mean, if it works and you end up being a top 10 offense, I'd love it.
Hey, run that shit up, Chase.
I don't know if he got benched. I don't know. I don't think he got benched. I might be wrong, Rich. Let me know. I would want Pat Shermer. Bradford, McNabb, Keenum, and Foles had their best seasons under him, and their best seasons were either really good or elite. But for all of the good success stories he had, right? We can't ignore. Hold on, let me pull it up. Can't ignore the other ones, right? So Pat Shurmur he was the OC in St. Louis, Philly, Minnesota, New York. And in 2019 is the year I believe that they drafted Daniel Jones, right? Daniel Jones that year, 24 touchdowns, 12 picks. Was that? Yeah, that was the head coach. 24 touchdowns, 12 picks. Should I be looking at offensive coordinator spots? I don't know. Denver 2020. Let's see what this one was. I thought that was, yeah, Drew Lock. 16 touchdowns, 15 picks, 57% completion. What else did we have? All right, Philly OC, mini OC. That was 2016. That was the Sam Bradford year. 20 touchdowns, 5 picks. When did Teddy take over? And then obviously, yeah. So Pat Shurmur, that's how Pat Shurmur got the head coaching job in New York after the Minnesota season, 2017. Man, went from Minnie to New York as a head coach. Who was in 09? 09, he had the 32nd ranked offense with Mark Bolger and Kyle Bowler. Oh my goodness. And Keith Noel. I don't even know who Keith Noel is. And then, how do you hold on, bruh? Hey, and then in 2010 they had the 26th ranked offense in for St. Louis. Sam Bradford goes 18 touchdowns, 15 picks. And you telling me that this man went from the 26th ranked offense for the 2010 St. Louis Rams to head coach in 2011 to the Cleveland Browns? How does that work? How does that work? How do you have that bad of a production offensively and get a head coaching job? Who do you know to get that job, bro? Anyway, all I'm saying is with Pat Shurmur, I don't disagree with the success stories, but I will just say you gotta take into account the stories where he doesn't look too good as well for a whole picture. What do I know about Charles London that they just recently interviewed for the head coaching job? So yeah, I was actually talking about that earlier. Charles London, man, if you went that route, it works well for the zone scheme offense, zone run. And Washington has the players to do it. They have the pieces to do it currently on their offensive line. It works for Charles Leno. It works for Chris Paul. It works for Sam Cosmi. Now, Chris Paul, if you want to move him as a starter, he got some things to work on. And it also works for Wes Schweitzer. I'm sorry. But if you want to use Paul as your guard moving forward, that's some things that you got to work on. You got to consider. He can start for you, but you have to invest your time into developing him this offseason. And he has to develop some time in like building up his play strength. That's one of the things that I looked into where you're like, you're looking at him perform and try to execute some things, and he needs to develop like his upper body play strength. But again, that's one aspect. And technically you don't need to necessarily be super strong to execute zone scheme offense. You don't have to be super strong to do it, but you would like your interior offensive line to be able to hold down and even in pass protection, anchor up. against power and those strong bull rushers from the interior. If you can't do that, you're gonna have some struggles. So I like Charles London from the idea of like, if like you have the offensive line, you also have some good blocking tight ends and receivers. Like you can be a little bit versatile in this offense under him. I can't tell you what his pass game looks like. I don't know. You can probably get a grasp from his coaching history, who he may identify with the most. I don't know. But yeah, it's a good thing that he's a quarterbacks coach now, and he used to be a running backs coach, I believe, as well. So that's good. He said Cardo had 2 attempts for his last game. I don't know if he got hurt. Those opportunities are easy to come by, are easy to come to. And when Pep had Andrew Luck and when Jim Carbo had Peyton, they both did work. Yes, solid. I think those are ones that launched Pep with some opportunities. Andrew Luck, that's a good point. Byron in there with Tampa. I did like the way Charles London used Patterson. If we can get Samuels going like Curtis. Well, Charles was the quarterback's coach. Let me double check. So maybe I'm off. And then stats. Oh, they got the player stats. I'm looking for the coaching stats. Yeah. So yeah, he was, or maybe you may be thinking about Cordero Patterson. I don't know. And in Chicago, I don't know. But yeah, he's a quarterback's coach for Atlanta. Let me double check. When was Cordero? I know he was there. He was there. Oh, so he may have been there. Yeah, he may have been there with Charles. Let me see.
Hey, run that shit up, Chase.
Yeah, in 2020 he was there. All right, so let's see. Charles, did they use Cordero then? Yeah, 64 carries in Chicago, but he wasn't that good. He only averaged 3.6 yards a carry then. He really took off in Atlanta. Good for him. That man Cordero averaged 4.8 yards a carry this year. Cordero is old, bro. He's 31. That's crazy. That boy can scoot. The enemy with Mahomes. Then Patterson give us like 4 tutties last season. Hey, he was cooking. He was cooking last year. Let me look at his game log. I think it was 2, though, to answer your question. I think it was 2. Oh Lord, he had 3. Yeah, it was 3. He had 3 tutties. 3 tutties. Okay, so Shermer, London, Daryl Bevel is another zone scheme guy, from what I remember. Full disclosure too, I haven't studied not one person's scheme or offense yet. I'm actually, personally speaking, I'm not going to dive that much time into a potential candidate because I don't know where Ron's head is at. Like, truly, I really don't know. I would rather wait until he makes a selection before I start looking into options. But with that being said, Daryl is a zone scheme guy. We know that much, right? Let's take a look at his history. Daryl Bevel coaching history. Let's see. So he's a long time OC, man. He's been an OC since 06. All the way up until 2020, where he was, I want to say he was interim head coach for Detroit. So he was with Minnesota and Seattle for a long time. Obviously from 2012 or 2011 to 2017, he was a long time OC for Seattle under Russell Wilson and Marshawn. Always had good numbers rushing the football. Daryl Bevel. Let's see. Does he have rankings, average rankings? Yards. Nah, that isn't. What the hell is this? That must be an average. But in Seattle, let's see. Matter of fact, let's go to. So he's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He's had 7 top 5 rush offenses during his time as offensive coordinator. 2 times in Minnesota, 07 and 08 under Adrian Peterson, and then 4 times on 1, 2, 3, and 4 times in Seattle during the Russell Wilson and Marshawn Lynch era. Then he had a stint in Minnesota 2 times where they were top 16. I don't know where things went left in Seattle. I know they got tired of him. That was a long time in Seattle. Then he moved to Detroit as the offensive coordinator. Wasn't able to be as productive there, but I mean that's situational. Detroit didn't really have much going on for them at all. In the run game for a good little minute. Darrell Bevell was also the head coach in Jacksonville. Again, turmoil, messy. Things didn't work out there either. When you ask like what do I think of Bevell? I like the idea of his run game. I like the idea of his experience. He's a clear-cut like track record guy. Like you can trust a guy with a track record who's had top 10 offenses in the run game. And you can trust a guy who's had top 10 offenses in the NFL. So that makes me even more concerned about, I think, a guy in Pat Shurmur, and I'm going to double check, but I don't remember Pat Shurmur really having top 10 offenses in the NFL. He's had 2. One in Philly. Actually, they're both in Philly. And that was under the Chip Kelly RPO go crazy shit that he had going on, right? But that's it. Outside of that, everything else is outside of the top 10. But when you have a guy with a track record and experience in like Darrell Bevell, I'm sure he's looking at this opportunity saying I can make something shake here. But also, again, that's when you circle back to the idea of him trying to entertain a potential 1-year deal. Like what can that do for you here? Or what can that do for you long term? Like things are good in Miami if you think about it. Like that's good. He's doing good. So that offense in Miami is probably much more enticing than anything going on here, especially if they can keep building around Tua if they decide to move forward with Tua, and if this Tua doesn't decide to retire, that's probably something. Where else are we at? Eric Studesville. Wait, hold on. Did I mess something up? I think Eric Studesville is the guy in Miami I was thinking about. Darrell Bevell. Yeah, Eric Studesville, I think, is the guy. Oh, Darrell got an interview with the Jets. Commanders actually, yeah, they requested an interview for Darrell as well. Let's see what's going on with, who is his name? Eric Studesville. Let's see what we got over here. I don't know much about Eric Studesville. He's their running backs coach right now. But that's as far as I can really tell you about him. I don't know too much about his ground game. If he's under Mike McDaniel, if he got poached from, I don't know. He's been in Miami this whole time, so I don't know. I don't know anything about Eric Studesville, to be honest with you. But they did request an interview with him. I don't know. Gotta do your research on him. I clearly didn't. Good luck. Good luck with this one, Hulk. I don't know. The idea sounds good. Their run game is really good. He's an animated and passionate coach as well. If you all saw the Hard Knocks, that's a good thing to tap into if you want to get some more insight on Deuce Staley. The interesting thing about the Detroit Lions is Deuce may understand like the bigger picture too. Their offensive coordinator, what's his name? The hot name. Let's see. Hold on. What's his name? I'm drawing a blank on it right quick. Oh, Ben Johnson. He told people yesterday, like he said he's going to stay in Detroit because he feels like they have something special brewing over there. Deuce Staley may feel the same, Hawk. I don't know. It's a whole bunch of I don't knows coming from me, but at the end of the day, like if I had to give a preference of people, my first one would be, again, I want to emphasize the fact that I am not that invested. But in terms of preference, I think that experience can top everything. But I look at experience and I say yes to Darrell Bevell, no to Pat Shermer. And then if you look at other opportunities from guys who don't have that much experience, right? I say yes to Charles London. I say no to Eric Studville. If you want to talk about long shots, I say yes to Byron Leftwich, and even yes to Bieniemy. Like those are long shots. I want to emphasize that too. Those are long shots to me. But yeah, that's it. That's it, man. I really don't want to do like the preference thing, and like I just did, but I don't really want to do it in terms of like thinking about it every single time. Like this is a guy who I'd want or not want. I don't know much about these guys just yet, except for looking at their track record. I believe in Darrell Bevell because he has a proven track record. Same way I believed in Jack Del Rio when he got hired in Washington. I also believe that Charles London, with his experience and the words that people are saying about Charles London as an up-and-coming guy, right? You can look those up online. Like a lot of people understand who Charles London is. If you just look him up online, you can see that he's also going to be a guy who has a good future as a coach. Who knows where it takes him? But if he wants to get his first opportunity here in Washington, all right, go for it. See if you can get your feet wet and look successful in a year of calling plays and installing an offense that you see fit for Washington. So with Sherman, clock management goes out the window. I don't know. What would be this team's best interest? Zone schemes. They already have the zone scheme on their roster right now. That's for sure. Let me see what else I got. Doug Peterson. No one expects us to do anything, so go play, see what happens. I like that. What else we got? I'm gonna go over here scrolling through some news, making sure I cleaned up everything. Frank Wright interview for the Cardinals head coaching position. Interesting. Interesting. I'm still scrolling through.
Hey, run that shit up, Chase.
Tom Brady needs to either retire or decide to return to Tampa. If he explores free agency, they are left with If he explores free agency, they are left with the $35 million. Oh my goodness! If Tom Brady decides to explore free agency, the Buccaneers are left with $35 million cap charge. So he needs to either retire or return to Tampa. That is crazy. Ben Johnson, Monty Ossenfort. I don't know who that is. Shout out them. Eagles ran 32 quarterback sneaks. Oh my goodness. The Eagles ran 32 quarterback sneaks this season. The league average was around 8. And they had a 93% conversion rate when Hurts converts. I mean, when Hurts runs the sneak. That is crazy. Think about it in the context of Washington. Like, They couldn't run quarterback sneaks this year. That is crazy. 93% on 33 attempts. Crazy work. Okay. I'm not entertaining. Oh, so here's the thing. When I'm mentioning about opportunities, right? So look, there's 6 offensive coordinator openings: Chargers, Titans, Commanders, Rams, Jets, Patriots. And those aren't even positions where like they're looking for a head coach too. So that's at least 6. There's still some spots where head coaches have been fired and they have to fill in their staff. The Commanders, out of that list, Chargers, Commanders, Titans, Rams, Jets, Patriots, Commanders might mess around and be like 4th or 5th. Chargers is better opportunity. Rams is a good opportunity. Jets is a good opportunity. They have a good offensive line. They have a good running back. They have good weapons around. They need a quarterback and they need a coordinator. Yeah, and then Commanders. Maybe Patriots because of I don't know. I put Commanders at 4. Can't argue with Derrick Henry either. Like, that's a Hall of Fame running back. But I put Commanders at 4. We got Kings on. Yes, sir. 35 million. Yes. I think that's it. Yeah. Okay. That's it for your boy. So listen, last thing I'll wrap up, since we got some people in here that just checked in as well. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you are new. Appreciate everybody who has checked in. All season schedule for the morning show is likely going to be Fridays from now on. Off season, I'm not like I said, not a radio guy, not a person who needs to be on the radio every single day. So I'm trying to make things work and mesh with the Trapper Dive Commanders podcast and morning show. So we'll probably do every Friday for the all season. Another thing, we'll have published film breakdown, so they won't be live on the live stream anymore. At least off season won't be live on the live stream, but we'll have film breakdowns. Chris Paul is coming up, as well as Sam Howell, maybe some other younger guys from that last game, and then we'll also circle back on Jahan Dotson and some other people from throughout the course of the season, as well as draft prospects, free agency guys. All that stuff is going to be on this channel as well. So yeah, that's it. We'll be back later today with the All 32 side of Trapper Dive podcast, 7 p.m. Eastern. And then after that, we will catch you all next week. But y'all stay safe, man. Enjoy y'all day. Get back to work. All right, we out of here. Peace.